All right, so I mean, today has been pretty much a full day of editing. Editing two separate 5-minute videos for a client. That video is going to be used for internal purposes. So it started out with being one video, but that client, so on one of the days, on the last day, for shooting with the first department, I ran into someone who I knew previously, and she wanted a video for her department as well. So that one video turned into 2 videos, which is cool. The first set of videos were 5 days basically of shooting across their different manufacturing plants. So going to each plant and capturing B-roll and talking head footage of some of their staff and management team and so on. And so, yeah, one of the cool things, I've heard Mike Perez talk about this on his channel, where he talks about the show off filmmaking, and I've personally seen it as a benefit. What I mean by that is, clients, I think a lot of people are visual in terms of how they make purchasing decisions. And so I was at the office with camera and lighting gear, and the client saw it and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I need a professional videographer." Why? Because I looked like a professional videographer. I probably could have gotten the same, maybe not the same quality, but I could have gotten decent enough quality based off of what the client wanted with just my camera, with no V-mount, no matte box, no rigging, but just the camera and a microphone on the camera on a tripod. And that would have probably gotten us the quality we needed. But there's something about seeing a bigger, rigged out camera that makes people think, and not just think, because also these things also have utility, right? They're not totally for the show. These things also do help, with efficiency and accuracy on set, right? Having a bigger monitor to view your image, that helps. Having a matte box to cut sun glare when you're outside, it's actually a useful thing. Having a V-mount on your camera, so you don't have to worry about swapping batteries or your battery dying mid-shoot, that is a real thing. And then also, if you're putting a monitor and you're putting a wireless transmitter on your camera, all of that needs power, right? And so rigging out your camera does have its utility outside of just the show, but we can't deny that it does increase the client perception of the value that you bring. And so I'm kind of now realizing how important it is to think with that in mind. For most of the shoot, I was running around, in terms of lighting, I was running around with what do you call that thing? It was a Nanlite 60B, which is a 60-watt bicolor light, and that was enough lighting for 95% of the shoot. There's one particular scene that I needed to bring in the 300B because it was a bigger room and I was bouncing the light off. They had nice white walls, and so I was just bouncing the light off the white walls to bring up the ambient exposure in the room. But everything else, I was using the 60B, and I was either bouncing it against a white surface right beside that person, or bouncing it against the wall, or pushing it through the diffuser part of the 5-in-1 reflectors, the circular reflectors, or bouncing it against the white side of the reflector. So I was just really just most of the time bouncing light, and that worked. That got the exposure up in most cases to what I needed. And why I would love to have, because I had my Nanlite 500B and the 300B, I would love to have brought all of that out and and kitted out. I had, diffusion cloth and everything to get a big old soft key light, but it wasn't necessary and it wasn't feasible for what we were doing. It was a very run and gun situation. We were literally like running around different floors, different parts of the plants, different offices, and capturing different people. So we didn't just set up in one room and we're shooting, because they wanted the dynamism and they wanted varying visuals and varying angles, because they wanted it to look fairly natural, like actually being a part of the day, like a day in the life of a particular staff member, right? And so I couldn't run around with a big old diffuser, big old 500 watt light and stands and all that kind of stuff. It just wasn't effective, and it was just me and my wife. My wife was running production assistant. Actually, she was quite a bit more than production assistant. She was kind of directing and producing, and also keeping abreast of the script, making sure we're running, or we're capturing everything that we need. And I was acting as DP and director, and it went well, right? A 2-person crew, which typically I can get away with a 1-person crew in most cases. I can. With this very fast-paced run and gun situation, having a second pair of hands to help bring the light stand, the 1 or 2 light stands, as well as the camera and anything else that we needed. All those things were very important, or very helpful to have a second pair of hands and a second pair of eyes on set. There's a lot that goes into shooting a video. There's a lot that you have to pay attention to. What's beeping? I have no idea what's beeping. I don't think it's the camera. Anyways, yeah. So there's a lot of things that goes into being a solo operator. As you can tell, you're looking for creative angles. You're looking for a creative shot. You're thinking about lighting and framing and composition. You're also thinking about audio, right? Making sure the person is mic'd, or at least there's a mic. Whenever a mic is involved, making sure the audio is the mic is there, making sure the levels are good, and making sure that the there isn't any like clothes rustling and so on throughout, like especially for the second department. Throughout that 2-day shoot, we probably mic'd up over 25 people, right? And so we had to be very nimble, we had to be very quick. We had, and a lot of the departments, it was a very kind of a last minute script, and so a lot of the people had to be memorizing because they didn't want to use the teleprompter. And so we had to really be pretty nimble. Some of the times they were kind of selecting the person who they wanted to speak on the fly, and so these people didn't get a lot of prep. They're not paid actors, they're not necessarily marketing people, they're just staff members doing their job. And so they got some 1-liners and some 2-liners, and so they would have to try to memorize that line and try to say it in a way that felt natural and not too rehearsed. And in a lot of scenarios, that took a couple of takes, and a lot of scenarios we had to break that 2-line or that 2-sentence line into 2, right? So we had to have them say the first sentence, break, capture, get the second line, and then capture that, right? So we had to be very nimble, which means we couldn't be doing the professional lavalier microphones. A lot of times I was just dropping the DJI mic into their top pocket, or clipping it, inside part of their shirt or their polo. some of the times if they're sitting at a desk, I was just kind of tucking the mic in front of the laptop or tucking it in a spot where it wasn't showing, but it was, pointing at their mouth and picking up audio. Are these the best practices? No. Are these the best way to go about doing all these things? No. But it had to be very efficient. It had to be very nimble. It had to be very run and gun, right? Hence the term run and gun videography, right? But we still made it. We still had to bring a high level of production quality that justified paying for a video production company, right? Or paying for a cinematographer. So we're not just, because years past they would have used their cell phones, right? Somebody in the department who has, I guess, a fairly decent idea of how to run a phone or hold a camera would just walk around with their phone and do the video. And they said, you know what, we wanted to improve the quality, and we also want to boost the employee morale. We want to make them feel appreciated and that their roles matter. And so spending money on a videographer was I'm sorry. The mic is on this thing and I'm taking off the seatbelt. Yeah. So spending money on a videographer made sense for them, and that would in essence hopefully boost morale and have some employee appreciation being done. So even though we're being run and gun, even though we're being nimble, even though we're being efficient, we had to also bring quality, right? And so sometimes there is a sacrifice, there is a middle ground between quick and efficient, and then we also have a very tight turnaround time with delivering the final product. And so again, we're shooting and we're going through the whole process with all of that in mind, and I think we did pretty well. Both videos are in the rough draft period. Most of the cutting and placements have been done. A little bit of the coloring, there's still some fine tuning that needs to happen, and I'm just here running a couple of errands. So on my way to do one last scene shot off one of their warehouses, right? Need to get some overhead drone shots, and that's also one of the things we've been doing is capturing drone shots of the plants and different aspects or different parts of the manufacturing processes. They recently invested quite a bit in some solar panels and solar power cell, so they wanted to also showcase some of those things. So this is the last shot, like I said, and I am almost through editing the first one and waiting on feedback for the first draft. The second one is about 70-ish% there, and I'm gonna hammer those edits out tonight and tomorrow, and hopefully resting on the weekend. I do have a shoot on Saturday, short shoot for a different client based in London, and hopefully should be able to capture some B-roll of those, so stay tuned for that one. So that's pretty much it.